Your brain does not chase habits because they make you feel good. It chases them because it has been systematically tricked into believing you will literally cease to exist without them. When an overwhelming craving strikes, your prefrontal cortex is not suffering from a simple lack of willpower. It is being forcefully overridden by a primitive survival network that has reclassified that specific behavior as an absolute biological necessity alongside oxygen and water. We are about to break open the exact biological machinery behind this cognitive hijacking, tracing how a subtle shift in your brain's prediction error rewires your neural pathways and transforms mild pleasure into an invisible, ironclad biological directive. To understand why a simple impulse can suddenly feel like an emergency, you have to look past the surface experience of desire. Think about the last time you felt a sudden, undeniable urge to check your phone, open the pantry, or take a sip of something sweet. In that exact micro moment, you probably felt an uneasy physical tension rising in your chest or stomach. That visceral tightness is not an accident. It is a localized physical response generated deep within your autonomic nervous system. For decades, popular culture taught us a completely backward story about how human motivation works. We were told that dopamine is the pleasure chemical, a warm, happy molecule released when you enjoy a reward. That explanation is fundamentally wrong. Dopamine is not the chemical of reward delivery. It is the chemical of anticipation, error correction, and relentless pursuit. It does not fire when you consume the reward. It fires the exact moment your brain recognizes a cue that predicts the reward is coming. Back in 1997, neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz published a landmark study that permanently changed our understanding of human behavior. Schultz monitored the real-time electrical activity of midbrain dopamine neurons while training subjects to associate a simple light signal with a fruit juice reward. At first, when the subjects received the juice, their dopamine neurons fired rapidly upon tasting the reward. But as soon as their brains learned that the light reliably predicted the arrival of the juice, something astonishing happened. The dopamine spike shifted entirely. The neurons stopped firing when the juice hit their tongue. Instead, they exploded with activity the precise instant the light turned on. This revealed the raw mechanics of what neuroscientists call the reward prediction error loop. If a cue promises an outcome, your brain generates an immediate spike in dopamine to mobilize your body to get it. The chemical surge is not celebrating pleasure. It is generating an action potential. It is creating an internal state of neuroelectrical arousal that feels uncomfortable until the expected behavior is completed. Real quick, if you are catching yourself realizing how often your mind runs these automatic prediction loops without your conscious permission, step outside the loop for a second and hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know what habit immediately came to mind just now. It signals to the platform that deep neuroscience breakdowns like this one actually bring real value to people, which lets us keep digging up and uncovering the hidden brain mechanics behind human behavior every single week. Now, returning directly to how that prediction error actually reshapes the physical landscape of your brain. Every single time your brain experiences a positive prediction error, meaning the reward was better or more immediate than expected, it physically alters the strength of synaptic connections in a region called the ventral striatum. Imagine walking across a grassy field. The first time you take a path, the grass bends slightly under your feet. Walk that exact same path 10 times and the grass disappears. Walk it 500 times and you have carved a deep, muddy trench. Once that trench is carved, rainwater naturally rushes straight down it. Your neural pathways behave the exact same way. Electrical current flows effortlessly down the deepest synaptic trench, bypassing your conscious, rational prefrontal cortex entirely. Cravings are not moral failures. They are deep neural trenches carrying high-voltage electrical currents. Now, let us step into the true revelation of how your neurochemistry converts a pleasurable choice into a compulsive obligation. There is a darker, far more powerful mechanism operating behind the scenes, and once you see it, you will never look at your own impulses the same way again. In the beginning, When a habit is fresh, you engage in it for what scientists call positive reinforcement. You perform an action, you receive a novelty or pleasure boost, and your brain logs that event as a net gain. But your neurobiology is built upon one unyielding ancient mandate: baseline balance or homeostasis. Your brain absolutely detests extreme neurochemical spikes. When a stimulus floods your brain with unnaturally elevated dopamine levels, your neural architecture senses an emergency. To protect itself from overexcitation, it pulls the emergency brake. It does this through a process known as neuroadaptation. Your brain actively reduces the number of available dopamine receptors on the postsynaptic neuron and alters its baseline production of neurochemicals. In 2001, Dr. Nora Volkow and her research team conducted groundbreaking brain imaging studies using positron emission tomography scanning. They discovered that repeated high dopamine stimulation causes a dramatic downregulation of D2 dopamine receptors across the striatum. The implications of this discovery are profound and chilling. Because your dopamine receptors have been reduced, your baseline state of well-being drops significantly below where it was before you ever formed the habit. You are no longer starting at zero, you are starting in a neurochemical deficit. The subtle everyday wonders of life, a quiet morning, a calm conversation, a gentle walk, no longer generate enough neuroelectrical signal to register as rewarding because your brain has downgraded its receiving equipment. This creates a brutal biological state that neuroscientists call hyperkatifia, the elevation of emotional pain and discomfort during the absence of a stimulus. You are no longer chasing the original pleasure. You are desperately attempting to escape the biological penalty that your own brain created to force compliance. Have you ever found yourself reaching for a device or a snack without any recollection of deciding to move your arm? That is the exact moment where the habit loop transitions from voluntary goal-directed behavior to involuntary automatic compulsion. The neural control of the behavior literally shifts backward in your physical brain, moving from the ventral striatum, which processes conscious choices, to the dorsal striatum, which executes pre-programmed motor loops. You are no longer driving the machine. The machine is running a pre-compiled survival script, and your prefrontal cortex is merely sitting in the passenger seat, manufacturing logical excuses after the fact to make you feel like you were still in control. This is why relying on raw willpower is a fundamentally flawed strategy. Willpower is an energy-intensive function located in the prefrontal cortex, a region of the brain that fatigues rapidly under stress, exhaustion, or cognitive overload. Expecting your prefrontal cortex to continuously overpower an automated dorsal striatum circuit is like trying to stop a runaway freight train by dragging your foot along the track. The biology will win every single time unless you change the underlying rules of the system. So how do you actually dismantle this biological imperative? How do you take control of a system that has been re-architected at a molecular level? You do not fight the craving head-on with sheer force. Instead, you systematically engineer specific interventions that target the three distinct phases of the neural prediction loop. First, you must master the framework of interrupted prediction errors. Remember, a craving is an escalating wave of dopamine triggered by a specific environmental cue, urging you to complete an automated loop. That wave requires rapid momentum to override your executive functioning. By introducing a mandatory, non-negotiable 2-minute buffer between the immediate trigger and the physical behavior, you perform a surgical strike on the prediction signal. You do not tell yourself no. Saying no triggers intense psychological reactance and heightens neural focus on the forbidden item. Instead, you tell yourself yes, but only after 2 minutes. During those 120 seconds, the initial neurochemical spike peaks and begins its natural enzymatic decay in the synaptic cleft. You are starving the prediction error of the rapid momentum it requires to shift control from your ventral to your dorsal striatum. Second, you must implement environmental friction engineering to alter your baseline trigger field. Your brain is constantly scanning your environment for low-effort dopamine pathways. If an action requires less than 20 seconds of physical friction to initiate, your primitive motor circuits can trigger it automatically before your rational mind even boots up. By intentionally increasing the physical steps required to engage in a habit, placing your phone in another room inside a locked drawer, removing hyperpalatable foods entirely from your home, or using software blocks that require complex passwords, you force the brain to disengage its automatic dorsal striatum protocol. The moment physical effort is reintroduced, the brain is forced to pass operational control back to the conscious prefrontal cortex, giving you a genuine micro-window of conscious choice. Third, you must practice somatic decoupling, a scientific protocol widely recognized in behavioral medicine as urge surfing. When a craving hits, your mind immediately translates the physical discomfort into a psychological story, telling you that you need the substance or behavior to be okay. Somatic decoupling breaks this translation loop. When the surge hits, do not try to distract yourself or push the feeling down. Instead, turn your analytical attention directly inward onto the physical sensation itself. Map it precisely using your somatic sensory cortex. Where is the tension located? Is it in your chest, your throat, or your jaw? Is it hot or cold, tight or sharp? By observing the visceral sensation as a mere neuroelectrical wave passing through your peripheral nervous system rather than an absolute command, you decouple the physical feeling from the automatic motor output. You prove to your nervous system that a physical craving is simply information, not an emergency. Look closely at how you perceive your own mind right now. You are not broken. You are not weak-willed, lazy, or biologically flawed. Your brain was simply executing a brilliant, high-performance survival algorithm that accidentally logged an artificial stimulus as vital infrastructure for your continued existence. The intense physical urge you felt yesterday was not a reflection of your character. It was a pre-programmed neuroelectrical wave propagating through a deeply carved synaptic trench. And now that you understand the exact architecture of that trench, you possess the structural blueprint required to build a completely new path. What is the single exact sensory trigger that starts your strongest daily craving loop? Type just one word down in the comments below. Tap the like button right now so this exact breakdown stays permanently bookmarked in your personal library. That way, the very next time you feel an intense neuroelectrical craving wave rising in your chest, you can immediately come straight back here and reground your mind in the raw neurobiology of what is actually happening. Step into your day knowing that every impulse you feel is just a passing electrical signal, never an absolute command. Subscribe to Habit Decoded right now so you do not miss our upcoming breakthrough research, where we are actively decoding an even deeper biological system that secretly governs your ability to handle cognitive fatigue, emotional regulation, and deep focus under intense environmental stress, a revelation that will permanently transform how you navigate your daily life.